God brings about 10 plagues. So we're in chapters 7 through 11. We're reading about each plague. So each plague is a direct challenge to one or more Egyptian gods. It's ultimately to show that God is the one true God. What the Egyptians are worshiping is not, they're not going to be saved. God is going to use their idols to show that God is greater. So quick note when you're reading, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. What does that mean when God says he will harden Pharaoh's heart? What it means is that the more God shows his greatness, the more Pharaoh hated God. So the more power God showed, or the more power God displayed, the more Pharaoh's jealousy arose, or the more he got angry, or that stubbornness in his heart. So that's just a quick note when you're reading, I will harden Pharaoh's heart. So we have this first plague. It's the Nile River turning into blood. Now, a part of Egypt's economy, like used for transportation, used for agriculture. So turning it into blood clearly stops some form of their economy. So the water becomes undrinkable, dead fish everywhere, the river stinks. I also wouldn't be surprised if this is God's way of saying, hey, if you want blood, I'll give you blood. Remember that the Egyptians threw thousands of innocent Israelite babies into the Nile River? I don't know. So we have the swarm of frogs is the second plague. Now, the frog to the Egyptians is sacred because they live in two worlds. They live in water and on land. I even think that the frog was a symbol of life and fertility, but what's the value when there's just too many now? We have, these two are very similar, the third and the fourth plague. I thought, man, one gnat is annoying. I can't imagine a swarm of gnats. Then we have the cattle plague, which is the fifth plague. So all livestock except the Israelites' livestock die. Now, imagine the diseases. We have gnats, mosquitoes, and just a swarm of insects. I'm presuming like dung beetles and flies. They're flying around, they're eating the dead cattle, and they touch you, which doesn't surprise me that the sixth plague is that boils break out on the men and the animals. Now, Pharaoh's magicians start to advise Pharaoh to listen to Aaron and Moses, but Pharaoh, again, that stubborn heart, he continues to be stubborn. So we have hail, thunder, and lightning. Then we have the eighth plague, a swarm of locusts. I'm just going to read this interesting fact about a locust. It says, locusts can eat its weight in plants each day. So, a swarm of locusts can easily eat 423 million pounds of plants every day. This is what a swarm of locusts would look like. Absolutely not. No, thank you. Then we have the ninth plague, 3 days of darkness. That's a direct attack on Egypt's God. And then we have the 10th plague. This kind of brings us to the Passovers. You kind of notice that God has been very careful in demonstrating that there's something special about the Israelites. So God is saying that he is the one true God, displaying that within those 10 plagues. In Exodus chapter 12, verse 12, it says, for I will go through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. This is war on all the gods of Egypt, showing Egypt that their gods can't save them. Only the Lord can spare them. But God, again, is giving us a salvation plan. There's instructions on how to be saved. And the instructions are, they are to slay a lamb, and its blood must be put on the doorposts of their house. Now, when the plague would strike, God would pass over the houses that were covered with the blood of the lamb. So by passing over the houses, the firstborn would be spared. Now, Pharaoh's son dies in this Passover. Isn't that interesting that Pharaoh's son dies and the very next day the Israelites are headed to the promised land? kind of brings me to a very similar story that God's son dies and we get to go to the promised land.